All right, fourth grade, welcome to our social studies lesson. We're going to be reviewing the three branches of the United States federal government. So just to review for everybody, the federal government is the government that controls the entire country. So we talked about state governments last week in our class, and we said, the state government's how each state has a governor and has like a state House of Representatives and a state Senate, and that helps the state make decisions. But now we're going to talk about how some decisions are made on the federal level. So let's jump in. Our objective today, students will be able to define and explain roles and functions of three different branches of the federal government, and there are only three. So I have passed out to you a note-taking worksheet that has our warm-up on it. So our warm-up directions state, using your note-taking worksheet, answer the following three questions. 1. Who is the President of the United States? 2. How many senators are there in the United States Congress? And 3. How many justices sit on the Supreme Court? So we're going to take a minute, and I'm going to let you guys just jot down your answers. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think about these answers and write them down. And if you don't know an answer, that's okay, because we're going to go over them in a minute. So just be thinking about the president and what they do, how many senators there are. I'll give you a hint. There's 2 from each state. And how many justices sit on the Supreme Court, which I'll also give you another hint. It is an odd number, less than 10. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys about 10 more seconds to think up those answers. Alrighty, I am going to now show the answers. So, who is the President of the United States? Donald Trump. Very good. How many senators are in the United States Congress? 102. Very good. And so that's 2. Like I said, there's 2 from each state, and we have 50 states in our country. How many justices sit on the Supreme Court? 9. Very good. So there's 9 Supreme Court justices, and we're going to learn about all of these people and what they do in a minute. So did anybody get all 3 answers correct? See a couple of you. Very good. Very good. And it's important to know this information because these policies and procedures that they enact for us are going to be instrumental in our lives. And so let's talk. There are 3 branches of our government. There's the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. So these are the 3 different branches that we have that make up our federal government. Like I said earlier, the federal government is how we get laws that are enacted over the whole entire country. So let's take a moment, let's start learning about the different branches. So we're going to start with the executive branch, and there's a picture of the president. Our current president is Donald Trump. And the executive branch is extensively the president, who's elected every 4 years. Now, it's really important to note that the presidents are elected every 4 years. So every 4 years we have an election. Coming this fall, we will have an election to see if Donald Trump either wins a second term or if he gets voted out of office. Now, presidents can only have 2 consecutive terms, and their main job are to sign laws, veto laws, to pardon people, to appoint judges, and those are really the functions of the executive branch. And if a president dies, that should say dies, not does, the vice president replaces them. So we've had 45 presidents, and this graphic right here is it's not the world's greatest picture, but as you can see, we've had a lot of presidents, 45 to be exact, and at the end you'll see President Trump. So the executive branch, when I say that they sign laws, the president signs laws that are passed by Congress, and these laws become part of our society. So if Congress passes a law, the president signs off on it, as you see President Obama doing. If a president does not like a law passed by Congress, he can veto it. And to veto means to not sign. And so if a president sees a law that was passed by Congress and he does not like the law, he just says, I refuse to sign this law. And we're going to see what happens when that happens in a couple of slides. But just know that the president right now, he can say, I don't like the law and I refuse to sign it. Now, presidents have to sign these laws in order for them to become law. If not, then they go back to Congress. The executive branch also pardons people, so people who have committed crimes may receive a pardon or forgiveness from the president, and these people will be released from prison if they are in prison. So there are sometimes various people that get pardons from the president, and the presidents also appoint judges. So I'll give everybody 5 more seconds to make sure that all of our blanks are filled in. So I know this is a lot of information, but you guys are doing great. So we're going to have a quick check real quick, answering on your paper, what are the 4 things the executive branch does? Can anybody give me one? They sign laws, they pardon people, they appoint judges, and then they also veto laws. Very good. All right. Very, very good. You guys are doing great. So next we're going to talk about the legislative branch. It's also known as Congress. So there's 2 parts. There's the House of Representatives and the Senate. So the legislative branch has 2 different parts that make it up. There's the House of Representatives, which we're going to find out more about in a second, and the Senate, which we're going to learn about after the House of Representatives. So these are the 2 parts of the legislative branch. So the House of Representatives is made up of 435 members from all 50 states. The number of members is based on the state's population. They make laws and can override a presidential veto with 2/3 majority, or 290 votes. So if the president, like we said, decides he doesn't like a law and doesn't want to continue with it, he says no, but the House of Representatives can override that veto, which means they say, I don't care that the president doesn't like it, we're going to pass this law, and they need 290 votes to do it, which is hard, it's 2/3. The state with the most representatives is California with 53. So California is our most populated state. There are a whole bunch of states, like Wyoming and South Dakota, for example, that only have 1 representative. And then there's, the mid-sized states, for example, like New Jersey, where we currently are. Next is the Senate. The Senate is made up of 100 members, or 2 from each state. They also pass laws. And a bill must be passed by both the House of Representatives and Senate before it heads to the president. So the House will vote on a bill and the Senate will vote on a bill. And if that bill passes, it's going to go to the president. But if it only passes the House and it doesn't pass the Senate, it is considered a dead bill. So we're going to do another quick check real quick. So how many members of the House of Representatives are there? And how many members of the Senate? The Senate's easy. Can anyone tell me? Yeah, 100. But does anybody remember how many members of the House of Representatives there are? 435. Very good. So next we're going to talk about the judicial branch. So the judicial branch is the Supreme Court, and they're appointed by the president for life. So here's a picture of our current Supreme Court justices. All of these justices will be on the bench for life. And they were appointed by presidents, and different justices were appointed by different presidents. So you have here in the center, you have John Roberts. He was a George Bush appointee. To his right, it's his left, but our right, we have Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was appointed by Bill Clinton. So these, some people, they've been sitting on the bench for a while. That's what we call when they sit on the Supreme Court, is the bench. So the judicial branch is 9 justices on the Supreme Court. They decide if laws are constitutional, and they're appointed by the president. So if a law gets passed or something happens, and people are wondering, is that constitutional? Is it? Does it? Are we able to actually do that? And the Supreme Court does decide that. So the Supreme Court has uh, a very important role to play. And there's some really, really big decisions that the Supreme Court has decided over the years. So, and our final quick check, how many Supreme Court justices are there? That's another pretty easy one. How many? 9. Very good. All right, so your note-taking question, or excuse me, your note-taking worksheets have these 4 questions on it at the end. So let's review. How many representatives does it take to override a presidential veto? 2/3 or 290. Very good. So how many representatives does it take to get a 2/3 majority in the House? 290. Very good. How about in the Senate? That's right. The Senate it would take 67. Now, I know from math, we know that 100 divided by 3 is 66.6. But a senator can't be 0.6 of a person. So it takes 67 because we round up. Do you know why Congress is divided into 2 chambers? We didn't really touch on this key point, but it's going to be very important for a future lesson when we talk in history about the Continental Congress in a couple weeks. Congress is divided into 2 chambers just because one chamber is based on population and one chamber is just 2 senators from each state. It's made to make everything fair, to make sure that the interests of states like California and New York don't trump those of states like Wyoming and South Dakota. And if the president dies, who replaces them? Right, the vice president. Any questions that any of you may have? I know we went through a lot of information today and we went through it kind of quickly, so please let me know if you have any questions. And that will wrap up our lesson on the 3 branches of government. Thank you.